A partnership between the European Union and the Secretariat of the Pacific Regional Environment Programme, SPREP, has resulted in the Pacific Hazardous Waste Project, PacWaste.
So when we were deciding on where to have the third-year steering committee meeting for PacWaste and to combine that with a workshop, it became obvious that we would be able to do both here, that we could bring many members from the other Pacific Islands, the beneficiaries of PacWaste, and show them how a system would work in a very challenged environment. Kiribati has a very dense population on a very small amount of land and with very finite resources. It is not so well resourced as many of its brother Pacific Island nations.
EU and SPREP have a long history of collaboration, but I would say PacWaste is really the flagship initiative on waste management. I think we have a very good partnership. We achieved a lot. We have a very good understanding of the needs, on the approaches, on the way of working together. So far so good, and we look forward to continue this fruitful relationship.
Every year the members of all 15 countries are invited to come to the steering committee meeting, and we discuss what has been achieved in the previous year. We then talk about what's proposed for the following year, and we then seek input from countries to see if they've got any commentary on that.
This PacWaste Steering Committee meeting also allows us Pacific Island countries to come here to network, to share the experiences. I mean, not only sharing the common issues, but also discussing the solutions on how to manage waste back in our own countries.
And you know the three waste streams that the project addresses: healthcare waste, e-waste and asbestos, with an additional component on integrated atoll waste management.
Healthcare waste is a growing issue affecting many hospitals in nearly all member states.
It's the largest funded of the thematic areas with about $3 million. There was a baseline study on the main referral hospitals and then maybe the next secondary. So that was 42 hospitals. A very critical part of that was to do with destruction of healthcare waste. Anecdotally, we had reports that untreated healthcare waste went to landfills. Untreated healthcare waste might be unsecured around hospitals where animals and children had access, or that if it was being destroyed through incineration, that maybe that was at low temperature, which can produce other contaminants, which are subject to international convention.
This is an example where it's a new incinerator, but it doesn't have the stack or chimney to enable it to operate, so that's got to be provided, and then it will be able to hopefully serve its purpose in treating healthcare waste.
And there's 21 healthcare waste incinerators that are now landing at different Pacific Island destinations from the United Kingdom.
Workshops are also being conducted to bring hospital staff members up to date with the safe practices required.
The other day we did a training session for a whole range of staff, and now those staff are delivering training. Today it's cleaners and orderlies within the hospital. And now that'll be rolled out. These staff will go back to their wards and departments and implement hopefully better practices.
Until the 70s and 80s, a very popular form of building material was asbestos.
Asbestos has been used for a very long time by mankind, back in Greek times. It's fire retardant. You can use it as insulation material. So it was very, very useful because of these characteristics. However, asbestos, when it's airborne and when it's breathed into the lung and it lodges into the lung tissue, is a carcinogen, or also causes emphysema. WHO has stated that the only sure way to be safe from asbestos is to ultimately remove it.
But currently, the challenge of removing all existing asbestos is a huge one.
If you were to replace all of the asbestos that we found, it would be like $130 million. We have $2 million. So our priority is public areas, and where there's a lot of people, where there's the people who are most vulnerable. So that's schools and hospitals.
Despite the challenge, PacWaste has a commitment to begin the safe removal and disposal of this deadly material throughout the region, including 4 public locations in Tarawa.
There are lots of cans and plastic bottles in Tarawa. And yes, you can earn some money from them.
All member states have some form of success in the recycling of waste. In Kiribati, bottles and cans are subject to a 5-cent import levy. 4 cents of that is given back to the community when they bring these items to the depot. The system pays for itself.
I'm happy to run this place because I can make a profit from it. Government are happy because it costs them absolutely nothing. And the public are happy because in the course of a year we hand over approximately $250,000 for return cans and bottles. So everybody wins. It's a very simple system, but it works.
Although not a PacWaste project, it offers an example of what can be achieved when all parties unite to achieve success.
Learning from success would be an example of container deposit legislation in Palau, which is completely workable, which actually generates enough money that it's cross-subsidising other activities.
A natural extension in recycling is the conversion of or electronic waste into marketable Escrap. This is something new for most member states. So, what is e-waste?
We are not talking about white goods, refrigerators and washing machines. This is your computer parts, phones, laptops, anything of that line. So electronic and electrical. If it's burnt because people are recovering copper, produces air pollutants that are very toxic, produces dioxin and furans which contaminates our environment and is subject to the Stockholm Convention. If it's dumped randomly as well, it contains many heavy metals which can leach into the ground and into the environment. It can end up in your food source.
Yes, Kiribati has begun collecting e-waste. But what's the next step?
It's about segregating them into those parts that are valuable, which can then be sent to Asia, to the US, to Europe, and they're very valuable. There is a big trade in e-scrap. E-scrap's the valuable components of e-waste.
We cannot do just this job without the training, even if we give to the youths.
Puneata's youth are very keen to start, but they currently lack the training.
So it's just at the beginning. Some of these things here are now more established, lead acid batteries and cans. We'll gradually move on and try and make these things established as well by running pilots in multiple countries. And so Kiribati is one of them, Palau will be one of them, Tonga, potentially Vanuatu and Solomons as well.
Everyone's taking a memento, a bag.
One small success story in Kiribati is the prepaid greenback system, now supported by New Zealand Aid.
Examples such as the prepaid bag, which is occurring in Tarawa, which at 20 cents very much subsidises the collection of solid waste. And from what I read, goes from a collection of waste that was something like about 1% to having 60% of the population now participating.
But all this waste, where does it go? Small island countries like Kiribati face a serious challenge. In general, the islands of Tarawa are only 2 or 3 meters above sea level and 500 meters across at the widest point. On such a small land space, where does solid waste get dumped? One answer in Tarawa has been the creation of 3 landfill sites, all of them on the lagoon side of the island.
Waste being blown away into the
2 of these landfill sites are very much the babies of Harry Langley. He's a very passionate father figure.
Yeah. Rubbish was blown away, but they all catch by the fence.
Harry, for a king tide or large waves, it doesn't breach the wall?
During the normal high tide, never yet. There's no smell, it's really good.
One constant challenge faced by Harry and his team is the reliance on heavy machinery. On this occasion, the problem wasn't yet another flat tire.
The problem now is the electrical part. Let's go to the construction techniques of the landfill.
Back at the council office, there's intense interest in Harry's presentation and a real need for information.
Our access to those tests in the future, we'll be very happy to you could share those with us.
Do you recognize or notice any effect on the nearby beaches, like soil erosion or something like that?
The contribution of those with expertise in high island landfills is also valuable.
Keep it up, the good work you're doing. And I think we may steal you from some time, to promote this initiative in our friends in Tuvalu and other atoll islands that are facing the same problem. Very, very good work. Keep it up.
There's also a component of twinning and creating specialist networks. And so no, it's great that we've brought these two methods and the experts who are associated with them together, and that we can expand that and see how we can apply it for the benefits of everyone.
It's the final day of the workshop, and participants travel to a nearby resort to reflect on what has been achieved.
It's good to have laws, and it's good to have good laws, but the enforcement sometimes is a difficult thing.
I think this workshop is a stepping stone for the regional Pacific Island countries to create new platforms for each country to learn from each other and to help each other in addressing the different types of waste we have in the Pacific Islands.
Learning from success as well, just to say about sustainability. But interventions cannot be sustained unless we have the relevant policies that are adopted by countries, we have the strategies, we have the capacity building and the training. And so PacWaste, as it goes along with each of these elements, it will train people at the same time. It'll do train the trainer so they can train other people. It will have monitoring for the life of the project, so we come back and check how that's going and see if we need to do anything else. And at the same time learn from them, the way that other projects have learnt in their progression, to see if we need to change something because we have also brought in a system that's not applicable for the Pacific.
This has been an excellent opportunity for the sharing of ideas and planning for the future. Kiribati gives thanks to PacWaste and EU for considering what we may have to offer to the process, and wishes all participants well in their important work in keeping our beautiful region clean and safe for all our peoples.
We say green bag!
Green bag! Thank you.